IVM.
Hey Raghavi, have you ever plotted revenge?
Yeah, it's a very recent one. So last month, one of my cats, Momo, so he was doing this thing where he'd wake me up at 6:30 in the morning, okay?
Oh God.
And he'd just scream in my face till I woke him up and I fed him. Also, he didn't actually need to be fed. There was already food in the bowl. He just sucks. So the whole of last week, whenever Momo would sleep in the couch in the afternoon, be happily snoozing, like dreaming and stuff, I'd slowly creep up on him and put my face next to his face and I would scream right in his moonji. Anyway, it worked. I don't get woken up at 6:30 in the morning anymore.
No, so sad.
Yeah, parenting is easy. Whoever told you it's not.
Yes, that's very cute. Very cute. I feel like mine is a little bit more terrifying. Not naming names,
Okay.
also not telling you which time period this is.
This could be last week for all I know.
Yep, could be. But a few friends of mine had planned to get back at someone because that person was being a real pain. And our plan to get back at them was to poison them. Yeah, we were going to spray a bunch of
What?
banana chips with like insect killer poison and then feed it to them. And then we felt bad and we dropped the plan because we knew that that person's parents would miss them.
Why are you so insistent on being a subject in this podcast?
Yeah.
Also, why are you telling me this?
Oh, because I like to remind my friends from time to time that I know their terrible secrets. And just in case one of them tries to flip on me, don't.
Okay, you made absolute eye contact with me there for a second. So you're a scary person.
Yes, I am.
Have you ever wondered why women don't do more crime? Well, we're here to tell you. There's misconduct all the time. Women are thieves and murderers.
That's gross misconduct.
Con artists, money launderers.
Criminal misconduct.
Financial fraud that's hard to track.
Take some planning, but still misconduct.
Even breaching a contract.
Well, that's more civil though.
It's misconduct. Misconduct. We tell you all about women that suck. Things that make you say, what the? It's misconduct.
Hello, and welcome to Misconduct. We are a podcast on which we talk about women that did some criminal stuff. Sometimes, it's simple things like cheating and dishonesty. Other times, it's just straight up drug trafficking and murder. We have it all down here at the Misconduct Pod. My name is Raghavi.
And I am Nisha. And today we are talking about Santokh Ben Jadeja, better known as the godmother of Porbandar.
Do you mean the Porbandar in Gujarat?
Hey, good job remembering geography.
Thanks.
Also, a little bit of history. Porbandar is actually a significant port city in the Indian state of Gujarat and the birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yep.
Santokh Ben Jadeja was a Gujarati dawn in the 1980s and she ran one of the major crime families in Porbandar for most of the 1980s. After this, she had a pretty long career as a politician through the 90s and early 2000s. Santokh Ben was feared across Porbandar, both for her criminal enterprise and for just how ruthless she was. Stories from many sources tell us that she would not think twice about killing anyone who had wronged her. In Gujarat, she was known as Godmother.
That's right. So this, by the way, what you're going to tell you about Santokh Ben is essentially a story of revenge, and we'll elaborate on that later. Santokh Ben basically stuck around in Porbandar for many years till her eventual death in 2011. While many may disagree with us, she was a criminal regardless. Santokh Ben's life as the head of a criminal enterprise in Gujarat essentially challenged what was traditionally seen as a male-dominated space. And of course, even in politics is also male-dominated, as much as we
Fair.
try to pretend that it's not just because we have 2-3 figureheads that are women, On the same note, she's also seen as someone who brought this constant looming threat of sort of violence over, Porbandar in the state of Gujarat. So it's kind of a 50-50 on her, if we can say that.
Yeah, 50-50 is also how I feel about like someone using criminal activities to justify their, feminist agenda. I mean, you can shatter the glass ceiling all you want. And I mean, I'm all for it. Yay, good for you and all that. But you really should not be doing so much illegal stuff to get there.
Yeah, because the shattering the glass ceiling stuff is like, whoa. But then you're also like, whoa.
It's like that one meme that's, that one that goes like, oh my God. Oh my God.
This became an ASMR podcast real quick.
Yes. Before we get talking about the woman, it's time to set up our usual warnings. This is an episode with descriptions of violence, murder, sexual assault. This podcast is not meant for children. Listener discretion is always advised.
Nisha,
Yes.
what do you know about Gujarat?
Unfortunately, I know like the most stereotypical things like Garba, Dhokla,
Of course, yeah.
Ghagra, Fafda from that one movie. Oh, Run of Kutch, which I hear is like super beautiful.
Yeah, have you been at all?
No, but I really, really want to go. I've seen all the pictures and stuff. I mean, I want to go to Gujarat in general, but especially Run of Kutch. Like if you see the pictures and stuff, it's just so stunning.
Yeah, you know what? We should go.
Yeah.
We should just rent a car and grab some tents and just head out,
Okay, Tentala, I don't know. We can do that glamping thing that you keep talking about all the
Glam
time.
camping.
Yeah. I'm totally down for glamping. Oh, we could even get to see like some striped hyenas. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, dude, totally. You know what? We should definitely plan this out. We should plan a girls' trip.
Yay!
Anyway, Gujarat is also known for its insanely violent criminal activities,
Oh, God.
particularly along all of its port cities. So Porbandar happens to be one of those port cities, and it deals with constant clashing of criminal gangs, like near constant. Okay. In fact, for a city that's supposed to be the birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi, like the father of the nation, Porbandar has a much more bloodier history. Porbandar district, by the way, is in the Saurashtra region of Gujarat, and its administrative headquarters is in Porbandar city. Just some quick facts. In 2011, the population of the district was about 585,000 people.
Okay.
The sex ratio of the district is about 950 females to every 1,000 males. And that is a statistic that I would just call frighteningly sad.
Yeah, I guess it's still better than a few other places in India. So
I suppose, but
not like it makes it great, but
Yeah.
it's not
that's
garbage.
that's not a 5-star Yelp review. I have to just say that. So in Porbandar, crime is a product of relations between various castes and trades and political affiliations. It was also partly because of a fight over Porbandar's mineral resources, especially limestone, chalk, and bauxite mines. There's an article in the Hindustan Times 2006, which basically talks about the criminal syndicates of Porbandar. And this is how they're described, and I quote, "They are no less than the gangs of New York." I hope the writer meant the book and not the movie, because can you imagine Leonardo DiCaprio on the streets of Porbandar? I would be into that. Is all I have to say.
Sounds like an Oscar bait movie.
It really does. That's true.
Yeah. By the way, the article that you're talking about is titled "Bapu's Children Swear by Guns."
Yeah, some of the titles we saw while you were researching this particular episode, I don't know, man. What were you guys on? Also, congratulations. I don't know. By the way, Bapu references Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
That's when they say Bapu's children swear by guns. There really isn't one article that I've read about crime in Porbandar that doesn't make that reference. Like, do you know it's Mahatma Gandhi's birthplace?
Yeah, but I get it though, because he was like the poster child for non-violence, not child, whatever, you get it.
Yeah, not even poster, the literal. Yeah, that's true. Sorry, in fact, at his memorial house, which is called Kirti Mandir, that's in Porbandar, in 1996, there was an IPS officer who was involved in an extrajudicial killing of 2 men who were also accused of killing another man. So,
yeah, that's... There's actually, I saw this Catch News article from 2017. It says that even the police don't enter the area that the Kirti Mandir is located in.
Yeah, that's right. In any case, the 1970s and 80s is when gang violence in Porbandar really peaked. There's an Indian Express article from 2006, which talks about, in the late 60s and 70s, it sort of like ran through the timeline of what the criminal activities were like. And Porbandar's black marketing and extortion rackets were primarily attributable to 2 brothers, Deva and Karsan Vagar. So they were known as the Vagar gang, but I guess because the names Eagles or Bichus were already taken.
What? Where have I heard this name?
Dude, they're the rival gangs in that Shah Rukh Khan movie, Josh.
Oh!
Yeah, the one where Aishwarya and Shah Rukh Khan are twins, apparently. Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen this movie.
Of course. Anyway, so extortion and black market dealings, that was not all that the Vagar brothers did. The Vagar gang was also known to be really good at general intimidation and threats. Just your garden variety crime stuff. The Wagner gang was also apparently hired by a local mill. It's called the Maharana Mills. This mill, by the way, employed like 25% of the entire city.
Damn. Okay.
And the mill's owner asked these guys to threaten the employees to not unionize.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, like the Jeff Bezos of 1970s Porbandar.
That
you know?
is beautiful. That's well done,
It is,
Raghavi.
it's, topical. There was also another famous gang operating in the area called the Karvavas. From what we understand, this area is home to thousands and thousands of fishermen across the shores of Porbandar. There's an India Today article from December 1988, which identifies the area as, and I quote, one where the crackle of gunfire is common as rival gangs battle each other for supremacy.
Ouch. That does not sound fun.
Not at all. The same article, by the way, says that the local police believe that the criminals in the area had about 150 semi-automatic assault rifles, which is common knowledge, but apparently very difficult to track. And a reason that is difficult to track is because of the terrain. So this would be true for all of the neighborhoods of Porbandar that saw any criminal activity. Like the roads were really narrow. The buildings were tall enough that like light wouldn't get through very well. There were vehicles like littering the streets, made it hard to pursue anyone, basically.
Actually, this kind of reminds me of the episode that we had done on Sachikala baby Patankar.
Yeah. Patankar, yeah.
I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but no one corrected me.
Oh, that's true. No one corrected us.
Are people not listening?
Oh, no.
Aha.
Can you let us know if you're pronouncing this correctly?
Yeah.
That would be very helpful. I think it's baby Patankar.
I think it's Patankar. I'm
All
not
right,
sure.
somebody-
I kept saying Patankar during the episode. Anyway, but yeah, so like when she used all like the slums in Worli to make sure that the police could never catch her, it's that kind of sounds similar to what you were describing the neighborhoods of Porbandar to be.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
So, kids, if you want to take away anything from this context that I've just given you, let it be this. Crime in Porbandar is very easy to do.
What?
And you should quit your day job to pursue it.
No, shut up. Please, everyone, disregard everything that Raghavi said. Just in those last few seconds of some nonsense.
Always crushing my dreams, Nisha. Just,
So, now that Raghavi has said some context to Porbandar, and that's all we will remember from whatever that was. Around this time, there was a young lad by the name of Sarman Munja Jadeja. He was becoming important in the streets of the city. Sarman was from the Mayor or the Maher community of Gujarat. The community comprises of Kshatriyas from the Saurashtra region specifically. Folks from this community spoke a dialect of Gujarati that's kind of special and unique to them. They're considered to be like very old residents of the area. Most importantly, the Mahers dominated the politics of Gujarat, especially in Porbandar and Kutiana, both at the local level and even at the state legislatures. From 1962 till date, the Mahers have largely held these constituency without much disruption. Now, Sarman was a novice in the 70s. He began working as a transport laborer for a while. Then he took up a second job as a milkman. So, Sarman's neighborhood was constantly being terrorized by the Bagher brothers. To be clear, we are saying bully, but we basically mean that two sets of criminals were ganging up on each other.
yeah.
There were also many criminal activities happening on the side of the Mahers, except they were not as organized as the Waghers. In fact, the Wagher brothers were actually bullying some local mayors that were selling tickets in black for new movies in the cinemas. Local hawkers and merchants from the community, they were also getting harassed by the Waghers. Anyway, it definitely annoyed Sarman and that the Waghers were treating his people like that. So, what do you think he decided to do about it?
Did he report them to the police?
Try again.
Okay. Did he talk to them and appeal to their sensibilities?
Last chance.
That's the worst button. Fine. Did he start a rival
He started
gang?
a rival gang. But like for him, his activities were a little bit different. So for the next 7 years, Sarman came to be known as the Robin Hood of Porbandar. So the Mayor community treated him as a hero. Really. He was involved in extortion and gun running and trafficking
Of course.
and land deals.
I stand by what I said.
So he gave a large portion of his earnings to the poor, specifically from his community. And he justified this saying that people have suffered for far too long in poverty in the city and deserved better treatment.
Right.
Although in the process of being such a noble man, he racked up like 47 cases against him in just 7 years. And about a dozen of those cases were just for murder.
Okay, I take back what I said.
Good, congratulations. Because murder was a common part of their dealings. In fact, human life was considered extremely disposable when it came to making their money and spreading their influence. And this included eliminating members of the Wagner gang as well, if needed. I guess they inspired all of this. But yeah, so despite his Robin Hood image, Sarman did not hesitate to hand out like super brutal punishments.
So that reminds me, there is a Hindi movie called Godmother where Shabana Azmi plays Santokh Ben.
Oh man.
Shabana Azmi is a goddess, by the way.
So
In
beautiful.
the movie, as well as, like in real life, Sarman is known to be absolutely ruthless. And in the movie particularly, there's like this distinction between his ruthless side and where he's also like kind and gentle. But there's one scene in the movie where he straight up ties two people onto his Jeep.
Whoa.
And he drags them for ages along this dirt road. And of course, they die.
Yeah, we don't know how much of that is fictionalized, how much of it is real, but that just kind of, it just goes to show that even if it was fictionalized, right? The movie makers were like, oh, this is how bad he could have gotten. So
That's fair, yeah.
So that's where we're at in the 1980s. Two rival gangs in Porbandar constantly at loggerheads, fighting for power, for relevance, for influence. And in the meantime, there is Santokh Ben.
And on that note, let's take a really quick break.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
Welcome back after the break. What we did in the last 10 minutes or so was just sort of discuss what Porbandar was like. Was it a great vacation spot? Nope, not remotely. We're talking about a bunch of dudes as well who sort of handle the overall criminal enterprises of Porbandar. Dude, we hate to start off episodes like that, okay? But context, and you guys need it.
Yes.
But
yes, they do.
now let's get into Santokh Ben's life.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so just to clarify, there are no publications or books that talk about Santokh Ben's early life. We think her year of birth is 1949. Usually when I talk about politicians, especially, anybody who has any sort of political career, I go to myneta.org to get all of their, disclosure documents. But this is way, way before that. So I didn't have access to any of that either. But we do know that Santokh Ben was raised in Porbandar for most of her life.
Yeah.
And when she grew up, she married Sarman.
Hey, she's the Maid Marian to the Robin Hood.
That is correct. But the Robin Hood from Men in Tights, do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah, actually, I was thinking of the Robin Hood from that Disney movie where they're both foxes.
The fox!
Yeah.
Oh man, that is when I slowly descended into puberty. I'll be very honest. That fox was very handsome. But yes, it's...
Don't lie to yourself. You know it was Scar.
No, it wasn't Scar. Stop it. So the same... Sarman, yes, that's the same guy that you were talking about. So Santokh Ben and Sarman were married and they had at least 4 sons during their marriage that we know of. The oldest one, his name was Kandal. Let's keep this in mind for a little later.
Yep.
So for all we know, they seem to have had a happy marriage or at least a non-dramatic one.
That's fair.
That's great. That's a successful marriage in my head. Also, personality-wise, Santokh Ben was known to be sort of quiet and meek. During her marriage to Sarman, she apparently kept her head down quite a bit and didn't really involve herself in the gang's activities in any way. She also kept her out of the limelight mostly. She was just happy being a homemaker and a mother, for all we understand. Around 1983 and 84, Sarman came across the teachings of the Swadhyaya Parivar movement. So this is like a self-study movement that was founded by Pandurang Shastri. And it emphasized quite a bit on like selfless devotion as an extension of Hindu scriptures.
Okay.
It was a way of life, essentially. And Sarman subscribed to it very quickly. This was when he decided to give up violence. So that's essentially when he decided to give up on violence, both, as a main gig and as a hobby. Now let's remember, Sarman wasn't really a very subtle player in Porbandar.
Right.
But by this point, he had put together a massive team of people that were basically doing his bidding. So he failed upwards, but still he went upwards. So these gang men that were working for him, sort of started moving into working in isolation without any actual guidance or control from Sarman. And that sort of meant like a redistribution of power that the Wagar gang were not happy with.
Of course.
Like smaller gangs started coming up and they were obviously not as controllable anymore.
Yeah, because ideally everyone would just want power for themselves. So
that's fair. Monopoly is the way to go. So the Wagar gang stirred up trouble constantly to the point that Sarman was just not able to retire from this life of crime. Mahendra Parekh, who is a reporter who is based out of Porbandar in the 80s, he once said, Sarman, fed up of the Wagar brothers' games, was actually planning to leave this city. So Mahendra Parekh also goes on to say that Sarman didn't leave though because he felt he had to avenge his own name.
Okay.
Because, you see, it appears sometime in December 1986, Deva Wagar apparently called Sarman a coward to his face. And Sarman, who was extremely offended by this, lunged at him and stabbed him to death.
Okay, there goes the non-violence pledge.
Okay, listen. Before he took the non-violence pledge, Sarman had already allegedly killed about 47 people.
Okay.
And not to mention all the side stuff like the racketeering and the land deals and trafficking and smuggling. So there's also another story that Sarman was apparently packing up to leave the city when the Wagars turned up at their house and threatened to kill them. So Sarman and one of his uncles were like, well, you can't kill me if I kill you first.
Okay.
And
wow.
Also, if someone called me a coward, I too would give them a solid dressing down.
Yes, thank you. Sure, like you can beat someone up or send goons for saying something, but your real weapon is your words. Yes, wield it wisely, guys. Well done.
So wise, so wise.
So what happened with Sarman after that?
Oh, he died.
Oh no.
So yeah, the next day after he killed Devu, Sarman's body was found hanging outside the gate of the Maharana Mills. So he was apparently shot dead by Kala Keshav, who was formerly Sarman's protege, and he had defected to make his own gang.
Yeah.
So it's said that Kala Keshav's motive was revenge for Sarman's past indiscretions, but we don't really know much else about that specifically.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like a constant theme, this fighting for revenge. And the revenge also will be kind of vague, unclarified indiscretion. One that we will never be told or we will never understand because we don't know the inner workings of this gang. But just know that it's always a mix of personal and professional. There was an article by India Today published in December 1988. A gang leader at the time, who was unnamed in this article, was quoted as saying, "We believe in the dictum bullet for bullet. Life is not worth living if you're not able to avenge the killing of your near and dear ones." Ooh, I know, it's heavy, right?
Yeah.
And can you imagine someone just saying this as like a normal statement? Like, what did you have for breakfast today? Oh, we believe in the dictum of bullet for bullet. It's how normalized it is for them.
You lost a chance to say, I ate a bullet for breakfast.
Oh my God. That sounds like something they would say, actually.
That really is.
Maybe we're dramatizing it. I don't know.
Sure.
But for these gangs and for these criminals, essentially, the idea was to always put out a message. Even with Sarman, he could have easily just been killed quietly, no drama. But the Wagar brothers wanted to make sure that his body was hung up in plain sight in front of a mill that employed like 1/4 of the entire town. It was for everyone to see and to take a message from it. And guess who took a message from it? It was Sarman's wife, Santokh Ben Jadeja.
What? The subject of this episode? I didn't expect that.
It's only been 400 minutes.
Oh shit. I'm so sorry, guys. We're now into it. Go on, Santokh Ben.
Yes. So suddenly Santokh Ben found herself as the head of 100 hardcore criminals. Initially, she probably just wanted to use them to avenge her husband because revenge is, revenge goes best with family, I guess.
Sure.
Her aim was to kill those that murdered her husband. But she's kind of smart as well because she quickly realized the potential of this gang. She also realized that Sarman was not particularly organized and she would have to start reorganizing the gang from scratch. That's when she called over Sarman's brother, Burabhai Munja, from the UK. So Burabhai left the UK once he heard of Sarman's death. And what did Santokh Ben and Burabhai do when he got back to India?
Let me guess. They decided to do some avenging.
Ding, 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 ding. That is absolutely right. So
Thanks.
let's actually take a minute to understand where they're coming from with this, right? And when I say they, I basically just mean Burabai. Santokh Ben was largely been super quiet about all of her work, which is a good thing because clearly she has great lawyers. It's also a bad thing because we won't be able to tell you exactly what she's thinking. She never came out and spoke about any of these things. But here's what was working out for Santokh Ben. First off, she inherited an army essentially. There was about 100 people on her rolls, all former men of her husband. They swore allegiance to her because it was kind of like a familial thing for him. They wanted to see Sarman's death avenged as well because remember, he had a reputation as a good man to the people and he made efforts to give back to the community. The second thing is her husband was seen as a martyr and she was able to milk this. Sarman had uninterrupted reign for many, many years. He also had a reputation of being someone who spared women and children.
Yep.
He basically ran a parallel judicial system. It's not very different from, the run-of-the-mill Godfather movies that we've seen so far.
The run-of-the-mill Godfather movies, it seems.
Yeah, there are so many of them.
There are just the 3 and barely even that. I don't count the third one even.
Oh, no, I don't mean like specifically Godfather as the movie. I just mean all of the movies which have a Godfather. Any of these mafia / Godfather movies across Hollywood, Bollywood, whatever. So when Sarman became like the messiah for the Mayar community and then of course a martyr, those who benefited from his welfare so far decided to support Santokh Ben. Having this kind of social leverage was extremely helpful for Santokh Ben. And so she's already got all of this working out for her. The third thing was that she was known as a quiet, God-fearing woman. And her now being a widow, that really helped to push the agenda. She didn't want any publicity at all. In fact, in a 2002 Times of India article, she's quoted as saying that she didn't look good in photographs and didn't want to have her picture taken. Yeah. So all of this came together like very well to create a cult of personality for Santokh Ben, and that's where we get into it, because what she did after she took up the mantle of godmother of Porbandar, that's the exciting part.
Okay, let's talk business first, okay?
Yes.
So Santokh Ben proved to be a far more astute sort of operator than her husband was. First, she understood the power of money and politics much better than her husband, and she said to have sort of expanded her empire into Porbandar's real estate, mining and transport businesses.
Yes.
All business, by the way, that you can somehow legitimize as compared to racketeering and smuggling, which is how to legitimize, how to even try. So she also understood the importance of having law enforcement on her side. Again, like this is nothing she really has in common with the subject of one of our old episodes, Baby Patankar. Yep. It's the same person? I don't know. We'll find out. So Santokh Ben allegedly had a reputation for getting a lot of police officers of her choice posted in Porbandar. People that she knew would let her activities sort of slide as long as she paid them off. In the meantime, her henchmen allegedly ran rackets, on the side, ranging from extortion, illicit liquor, gambling dens, because that's also still fun to do, I suppose. But their real money was in land deals and mining. So, like we said before, the Porbandar area was ripe for mining, especially limestone, chalk, and bauxite. Some statistics, because I love statistics. In 2010-11 alone, 2.3 million tons of limestones, 145,000 tons of chalk, and 48,000 tons of bauxite were mined, as per a report of the Union Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises. There were other small industries as well, such as mining of sand and clay and felling of timber wood, all extremely well-off industries. So, of course, where there are resources, there is illegal mining as well.
Of course.
As recently as 2017, the Gujarat High Court mandated this ground-level survey to assess the magnitude of illegal limestone mining in Porbandar, to gauge the quantum of mineral theft that was happening. So 2017 is when they're issuing this survey. 1980s is when they likely started it,
Yeah.
So this is a very profitable and therefore very essential part of their business. We will never have any real numbers on this because, like we said, even the Gujarat High Court just is starting to figure it out. So we really have no idea. But this is what we know from the various reports that we've seen about this. Santokh Bin was also alleged to have a very serious arms and weapons smuggling business. So we know this because there was a crackdown that happened in 1994 when the then police chief Satish Verma, he launched an operation to sort of figure out where to hit her with her activities.
Okay.
In Rajkot, he had arrested 2 gang members of hers that had illegal weapons. And when they interrogated them and Santokh Bin's bodyguard, they found out that she was amassing weapons. So the police chief then, he filed a case under the Arms Act over, like a half dozen members of the gang. And then they raided her Porbandar house as well. A 1994 India Today article lists what they ended up finding in the raid. And all they found was one double-barreled .12 bore gun.
Oh.
Yeah, and some random documents about some land deal. Okay, so in classic Santokh Bin fashion, someone tipped her off about the raid and she got rid of all the evidence. Or there were no weapons at all. Who are we to say? I don't know. But you know what? I think she should have, since we're here on Bibi Patankar, I think she should have pulled a Bibi Patankar, dude.
You mean like when she maybe replaced 120 kilograms of illegal mephedrone with Ajinomoto?
Yeah, that's always a fun story. But yeah, something like that. But I think Santokh Bin should have, she should have stashed hundreds and hundreds of those bubble guns. The kind that blows bubbles when you press on the trigger.
Yes.
That would be hilarious.
That would have been awesome.
Police Chief Satish Verma here with a warrant and they're like, for what? And then he blows a bubble in her face.
Yes. So what Raghavi just spoke about was Santokh Bin's business side of things. And now we have the personal stuff. So between 1986 and 1992, Santokh Bin and her brother-in-law, Bhurabai, allegedly killed over 30 men that they deemed responsible for Sarman's death. Now, we don't know how true that is. We also don't know if all of these men were even responsible in any way for the murder of her husband.
Right.
We also don't know if this is just a ploy to get control of the city and strike fear in the enemy's hearts, essentially. But what we do know is that many, many gang members of opposing factions died in this period. This included 4 men that were actually connected to the killing of her husband. That is that Kala Keshav that you had mentioned, Parbat, Maldev, and Arbhan. They were all killed one by one in cold blood. Can you imagine the last person, like knowing that one of them, they're coming after them and he's coming after you next? Ooh, scary.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it that way. That is genuinely like bone chilling.
Yes, indeed. So all these killings appeared to be done at close range, indicating that the victims knew their assailants. These killings were also portrayed in that Godmother movie quite violently.
Yep, yes, they were.
Yeah. One other significant kill was that of Bhima Dula Odedara. So Bhima Bhai was also a bauxite and limestone baron, and word around the street was that he was trying to usurp Santokh Bin's business. So he was a criminal as well. In fact, in 2017, the Gujarat High Court gave him a double life imprisonment for a double murder.
Okay, solid.
So, yeah. Santokh Bin had long suspected that Bhima Bhai was responsible for supplying arms and weapons to the men that killed her husband. So on March 1st, 2005, Bhima Bhai was found dead. He was hit with 7 bullets, all at close range. So, according to a Times of India article from March 2005, Santokh Bin went on the run after this killing. She was eventually found and arrested, but she received bail. There were apparently other family members of hers that took the blame for this killing, and they were all acquitted. And that's just from what we hear. So, Santokh Bin would be under investigation again later in 2007. But this time it was for allegedly harboring 2 men in her gang that were accused of sexual assault and murder of 2 girls from the district.
Oh God.
Yeah. In June 2007, the investigating Inspector General of Police, Mohan Jha, he told Hindustan Times that Santokh Bin had been booked for the acts and will be arrested.
Okay.
Now, the police alleged that only Santokh Bin knew about the whereabouts of these men, but she never spoke. And she was eventually taken in for questioning and then let go.
Dude, I mean, this is kind of in stark contrast to how her husband operated, right? Like, I can kind of see this tonal dissonance. I mean, yes, of course, her husband also killed people. I'm not saying he was ruthless with his, with his punishments. But, when you compare how she and her husband worked, from the words of her own people, he never harmed children or women in any way. And I feel like something like this, he would take it a lot more seriously.
Yeah, that's what makes it a lot more jarring. Like while she may have been there to say that, oh, I must organize better and I know how to do this better or whatever, even like she may have, okay, fine, even if it is criminal activity, she organized it better and she knew how to herald it better. But there's that line which he drew, which she clearly just, the line is a dot to her, you know.
Oh God.
Yeah. I think we all just have to accept that at some point, Santokh Ben just went far beyond her husband's agenda. Because she wanted that social and economic control of Porbandar. As you had mentioned, that her husband, seemed to have been a kind man. Besides the killing, Santokh Ben just seems to be far more ruthless.
Yeah, she seems like she's like sort of consumed by revenge. I did read elsewhere that by the end of the 90s, her gang had about 500 cases registered against them, and she herself had 9 of those. Including the killing of Bhima Bai. And none of these were addressed or really resolved in any way before her death. She was even booked under the Terrorists and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act, the TADA, as we know it, right? And it's nearly impossible to get bail under that act. Yet she persevered. I mean, probably due to largely a lack of evidence, but I guess that's also the level of influence that she had.
Yeah, and to be honest, the thing is, Raghavi and I started researching Santokh Ben with the idea that, oh, she just wanted to avenge her husband's death and that's why she took up this mantle or whatever. Because this is the narrative that we've always heard. But halfway through, we were just like, girl, damn, we are so scared of her because it just stopped being about revenge. It became like this bloodlust after that.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, of course, this presumes that she did any of this, which we don't know. She was accused, but she was never convicted. There is also one thing like I want to quickly highlight here. For all her contradictions, Santokh Ben was weirdly also a supporter of having women in her gang. For one, she waved like all her sons off from the line of succession. And she was apparently going to hand over the empire to her daughter-in-law, Rekha. Rekha was her son, Kandal, remember him? The first son, his wife, that was Rekha. So Rekha was known to be Santokh Ben's right-hand woman. She basically managed the business in Santokh Ben's absence. And it was also well known that Santokh Ben employed women in her personal guard. She actually said to have trusted these women more than the men around her, including the men that she had previously served her husband and she had probably known for almost decades now. Even her head bodyguard was a woman named Leela Mir, someone that she always kept by her side.
Well, this confuses me. I mean, I can't decide whether I want to like or dislike her. Of course, all of the things that she did were criminal activities and completely despise her for that. But
I'm going to give you some advice. You can be both things.
Stuff can be 2 things.
Nuance. Ta-da!
Well, yeah, but however, as we all know, no good deed goes unpunished. On 20th May 2006, Rekha Jadeja, who was Santokh Ben's daughter-in-law, was killed in broad daylight. And this killing, it was a violation of the rule that women and children could not be killed in these blood feuds. News reports at the time said that the assailants were unidentified, but these assailants knew where to find her, in her home in Rajkot. So this is, and very similar to the Bhima Bai killing, Rekha was also killed with 7 bullets. And she died on the spot. Apparently, Santokh Ben was in the building when the murder happened. By the time she heard the shots and she ran out, the assailants had run away. The Telegraph reported in May 2006 that Bhima Bhai's former gang members were suspected for the killing, but the police never made any arrests from that gang. But one person was arrested, and that was Rekha's husband, Kandal, who is Santokh Ben's son. The police said that there was a theory that there was a family dispute about the succession of Santokh Ben's empire. So, yeah.
Man, again, this is so confusing. Sorry, everyone. We're bringing you the information that we have, okay? And the information is hella inconsistent. So, we're trying to piece it all together. But as you can see, there are holes everywhere that we're not able to really address. But that is really what Santokh Ben's story is. It's just this confusing chaos that she thrived in, clearly. So, yeah.
You know what's not confusing chaos?
What?
Some of the amazing shows that are there on IVM. So, let's go listen about that.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, founder and CEO of Growth School, Vaibhav Sinasti joins Varun. They discuss cohort-based learning courses and where edutech is headed. Why does every marketer need to understand attention span better? On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth helps us understand the concept of attention and how to leverage it. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav takes us on a trip to Turkey. He visits the city of Cappadocia. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam is joined by Sudarshan Lodha, CEO and co-founder of Strata. They discuss everything you need to know about fractional ownership. And on Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav explores the bizarre story of the origins of modern Malayalam, from a breast tax to a religious power struggle. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, do remember, go check out our website, ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, to get a list of all of our YouTube channels. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, HDFC Mutual Fund, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back, guys, after the break. Before this, we spoke about Santokh Bain and how confused we are about whether we like her or not. Jury's still out on that. But we do have some updates about, where we are with Santokh Bain a little after her criminal life. So Santokh Bain moved to politics.
Okay.
Indeed. So she was the first elected official to the Taluka Panchayat, and her work really impressed the locals. This was in the late 80s. So she also impressed Chimanbai Patel, who at the time was the leader of the Janata Dal Party and the Chief Minister of Gujarat from 1990 to 1994. With his support, Santokh Bain contested as an independent MLA as part of his government and won. So at the time, she got nearly 41,000 votes, while her nearest rival for the Kutiana constituency, of course, only got about 5,300 votes.
Wow.
So needless to say, the people really liked her, or they feared her.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Yes, I too have watched The Office.
Yay!
So yes, Santokh Bain was the first and only woman also from Porbandar district to be elected to the state assembly in 1990. She was an MNA till 1995.
In the middle of this, however, she had a falling out with her brother-in-law, Burabhai. A December 2002 Rediff News article covered Burabhai's side of the story as well. He seemed to be a bit bitter about the whole thing, especially coming down to India from London in 95. He is quoted as saying, "Do you know I was in England till 1995? I had a roaring second-hand car business and a departmental store. I had so much money that I need not have come to India to have my name besmirched. I used to sell second-hand cars to those Goras for £2,000. Then my brother was murdered in 1995 and I had to come to India to take revenge. I took revenge and promptly went back. If I was interested in Gundagardi, I would have stayed back." He also talks about how he went back to London after his falling out with Santokh Bain. He said, "I started getting complaints about Godmother, who had by that time, with my help, become an MLA. I had hopes that she would take care of the family name, but she started occupying other people's lands."
Ooh, no love lost there.
Not at all. So this is when Burabhai decided to run for a seat in Gujarat as well. He successfully managed to oversee Santokh Bain's political decline.
Ooh.
Yeah. In 94, Chimanbhai Patel passed away while in office as chief minister. So under Chimanbhai's rule, Santokh Bain emerged as an important power figure in Gujarat. But his death left a major power vacuum, as normally it happens. And many MLAs were shut out from the party nominations. Unfortunately, Santokh Bain was one of them. So in December 2002, Santokh Bain filed nomination papers for the Kutiana assembly seat, but later withdrew it in favor of another candidate. In that same Rediff News article that we mentioned earlier, Burabhai goes so far to say, "It is my life's mission to make sure that Godmother does not come back to Porbandar."
Ooh.
Yeah. In 1995, Burabhai won the seat in Kutiana, contesting as an independent candidate. So after a few years, he retired from public life.
Whoa, all
Yeah.
right. That was a very quick end to that political career
Indeed.
for Santokh Bain. But you know what? There is one other really interesting thing that I wanted to talk about. This is not really related to Santokh Bain in the sense that it's not about something she did specifically. But Santokh Bain was essentially responsible for contributing very significantly to a major judicial decision over the rights of accused persons to not self-incriminate themselves.
What?
I know, right?
No, I literally mean what? I have no idea what that means. What is the self-incrimination in Indian law?
I'm sorry. So self-incrimination is where an accused person sort of makes a statement in a court or before, like in the police and stuff, where they essentially tell on themselves.
Okay.
So it is the act of exposing your crimes by making a statement. So self-incrimination can happen in many ways. You could be interrogated and therefore disclose something. You could voluntarily do it. You might do it in a cross-examination. There are so many ways you could, just tell on yourself if you did a crime. Now, what's important for you to remember is that you cannot be forced to do it. So in India, under Article 23 of the Constitution, it recognizes two things, okay? No one can be compelled to incriminate themselves and no one can be punished for refusing to do so.
Oh. Is this like in the movies when like the cops are all like, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say will be used against you in a court of law. I don't know the exact words.
Yes, that is actually exactly correct.
Yay.
In the US, this is known as your Miranda rights.
Aha, yes.
Yep, it also includes your right to receive legal counsel if you need it as well. So basically, this is what you got to do. Okay, this is what there's an accused, this is what you got to tell him. You have to inform him that they have certain rights that before they can make statements that incriminate them, basically.
Okay.
You cannot compel them to give any statements as well. And if they are pressured into self-incrimination, then that statement is not admissible as evidence.
Oh.
This is why if you as a police officer, if you end up torturing an accused to confess, whoops, that's not admissible in court and this guy will very likely go free.
This actually reminds me of two things, I mean, that I would like to point out. If this had been around, like in the 1800s, then Troy Loco's confession would not hold up because Inspector Priyanath basically like duped her into it, right?
Fair.
But Seema Parihar's confessions, I mean, to all the dacoity that she did, that would hold up because she had a change of heart of sorts. And that's when she went and like confessed, right, in front of, to the Aurora police station.
She did.
Yeah.
And that was a voluntary confession.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
That's right.
So if you're all wondering, what are these names? Who are they talking about? Let you into the inside information, not joke. But yeah, so everyone please go check out Misconduct Season 1 because it has all of these details. Also fun little catch-up songs. So go listen to that.
So now in Santokh Bain's case, the question about this, the whole self-incrimination bit was around whether subjecting her to narco-analysis would actually be considered self-incrimination.
Okay.
So Santokh Bain historically has never spoken to the police, to the media ever, okay? She famously never speaks. So to get her to provide evidence, the Gujarat police attempted to perform something called narco-analysis on her.
Okay.
So narco-analysis is a type of like a deception detection test. It's what it's called, or a DDT, where a procedure is used to detect whether a person is being deceptive about something.
Is it like the polygraph test?
Yes, that is one kind of DDT actually. So narco-analysis, however, involves is you basically intravenously insert like a drug, usually sodium pentothal. This, by the way, is referred to as a truth serum in like chemistry essentially. So it causes the subject to enter into sort of like a hypnotic state. Then they can be exploited by a therapist or a police person or whoever it is really.
Why can I hear Severus Snape threatening to slip some Veritas serum in my pumpkin juice?
Oh, that was a beautiful slimy accent. But unlike Veritas serum, which I understand works 100% of all the times, this is not. Narco-analysis has been very useful for scholars to study, how effective prosecution methods are. But to use them as evidence itself, it's really, really dicey. And this is because the test is not free of deficiencies. So if you take too much of the chemical, you could just overdose and die. Also, like it impacts the nervous system in a way that makes it difficult for you to lie. But we don't have enough evidence to know that it works 100% of the time, And also you're putting somebody into a trance in which they will never actually be able to know their own rights regarding self-incrimination. So it's a pretty huge ethical dilemma, okay?
Yeah.
But back to Santokh Bain. I just wanted to give you some like exposition on this. In any case, the Gujarat High Court first allowed Santokh Bain to be narco-analyzed. And their reasoning was that they had exhausted all other avenues of interrogation and this was necessary. So they didn't see it as a violation of our constitutional rights. They also said that if they can use the narco analysis to get some clues to solve a case, then it's chill only. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
But the Supreme Court disagreed.
Oh, wow,
They
good.
said, bro, this is a hell of a big deal. So in May 2010, the Supreme Court said, and this I quote them, "We are of the considered opinion that no individual can be forced and subjected to such techniques involuntarily, and by doing so, it amounts to unwarranted intrusion of personal liberty." They also added that involuntary subjecting an accused person or even a suspect or a witness to such techniques outrightly violates the Constitution. In Santokh Ben's case also, she opposed the testing. So the court took this into account and they said, because she specifically said no, this is all over the place illegal and unconstitutional.
Wow.
And that's how Santokh Ben Jadeja, the subject of our true crime podcast, along with many other accused who came forward together, changed how the legal system sees the utilization of deception detection methods in this country.
Okay, that is freaking cool. I can't.
I know.
Like, this is pretty cool because, like, the Supreme Court. I mean, of course, I know that the High Court were trying. Everyone was trying. The Supreme Court was just like, "Hey, no means no."
That's true.
Whoa, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end almost. Santokh Ben had a colorful life, which was brought to an end in 2011. On 31st March 2011, Santokh Ben died of a cardiac arrest at her ancestral home in Porbandar. Police records at this point showed that at her peak, her gang had over 500 cases registered against them. We've covered some of those specific to Santokh Ben's own arrest. Yet, despite all of that, she just persevered.
That's true.
Politically speaking, the landscape didn't change much after she stepped down. And from 1998 to 2007, Bhima Bhai's brother, Karsandula Odedera, won the seat from the Kutiana on a BJP ticket. However, Santokh Ben's son, Kandhal Jadeja, who is associated with the National Congress Party, stood for elections from Kutiana in 2012 and he won. So I guess in a way, her legacy is still alive and strong in the streets of Porbandar, even after her death.
Let's sort of look into her legacy a little bit with a quick musical recap.
Let's do it.
Peace and quiet, my love, my man, were my desire. Then I lost him, so I need revenge, build my empire. Be godmother, I set my sights on something higher. You've never seen a woman like me. Don't get it twisted, I made my name, my fame and riches. You'll never see a woman like me. My crimes are alleged, though no one seems to find my snitches. You'll never know a woman like me.
Dude, that was hilarious.
Thanks.
And scary because it made me think about whether I still don't know if I like her or not, man. I'm genuinely confused.
Stuff can be two things.
Thought for the day.
Thought for the day.
On that note, you guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We had a great time putting this out and hope you had a great time listening in as well.
Yep.
Also, if you guys like our podcast generally, we invite you to please review us on Apple Podcasts or Audible. We'll put the links in our Insta bio. You can find us there. If you don't use Apple or Audible, there's always the option liking or hearting or subscribing or however you measure your
Love
podcast engagement.
Yes.
Yes, that also. That's correct. So please go ahead and do that. We would really appreciate it. We're really looking for that level of engagement. If you like us in particular, give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, and actually, we want to engage with you guys more often as well. It's just, we are in a little echo chamber. It's just us talking to each other, which we do all the time. But we'd love to talk to you guys and we'd love to shout out your stories if you enjoyed our stories of revenge. Raghavi's was cute. Mine was borderline scary. But yeah, tell us your stories of revenge, not revenge, crime, not crime, whatever it is. We'd love to hear them and we'd love to shout them out on our show. We'd also love to give you some IVM goodies. So this is not a bribe. Tell us stories.
Yeah, and this is for India only. We're really sorry for anybody listening to us outside India. We haven't figured out international shipping yet. God darn it.
For that one guy in Kazakhstan. Sorry.
I swear. We have someone who sits out of freaking Cairo. Okay.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Who
and
are
we
you?
know whoever you are. You've listened to every episode because it literally shows like, 17 listens or whatever. I know there's only one guy out there. Whoever you are, hit us up on Instagram, dude. We'd love to give you a shout out. That is so cool. Like
it is.
That particular fact made us just go like, what is going on?
Yes, but where can they reach us, Raghavi?
That's a great segue. Sure. You can reach me on Instagram at the handle ragi.dose and Nisha.
And you can reach out to me on Instagram as well at just.nishful.thinking. All of our sources are available on our blog as well, so you can go and check that out. And we will see you on the next episode of Misconduct.
See you guys.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Duggirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy? If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.